Welcome back to another episode of Book Smart Life Dumb. This is the 13th episode. Today is May 8th, 2026. And I may have not had a lot to write down this week in my book, but I definitely have had a lot on my mind and to think about lately. Nothing too heavy. If you're a regular listener of this podcast, you know that I am just always working through what I believe is an ever-present issue of never having enough time to do all the things that I want to do, but also I have a very hyperactive brain for adding things to my to-do list. And I started to think about it while listening to some other podcasts and listening to more like current news and current events stuff. And in that, I saw that there was some brief topics of conversation about live service games. If you don't know what a live service game is, basically, back in the day, a game would come out, it would get put onto a cartridge or a disc, which, they still do. But then that would be the end of it. You would buy the game at your local seller of video games, wherever that may have been. You take it home, you open up the saran wrap around the box, you would take the disc out, put it in your console, and the game would just start running, and that is the version of the game that you had. You had the release version of that game. And as time progressed, you were able to start getting updates for these games on your console, but you still had the disc. But there would be a few hiccups that they didn't see before releasing the game, a couple of bugs that they needed to squish. And so these things would get updated. As well as, downloadable content. You could purchase expansion packs or multiplayer packs, etc. Not to be confused with like where we're at with micro transactions. Not to be confused with microtransactions, which is where we're at now, where majority of that stuff is cosmetic items, make yourself look cool in the game, so on and so forth. But in today's world, a lot of games are what is called a live service game, where you get the game one time, and every couple of weeks or couple of months, so on and so forth, that game will receive updates and additions to the game that essentially replaces needing to create a sequel. It replaces the need to make more games other than the one that you're already playing. This could introduce things like complete changes to how the game is played, additional content to make the game bigger and more expanded. I think now that I think about it, I think the original live service game, I guess at least the most original, or like the original successful one, is probably the World of Warcraft. If I'm thinking about it, game would be out, you play it, a couple years down the line, they put out an expansion for it. The expansion does exactly what the title says. It expands the game, it adds new areas for you to explore, new content to do, new mechanics, etc., and so on and so forth. A lot of games these days have adopted that model, though. A lot of games now are games that you purchase once and you never have to buy the second one. You never have to wait for this next release. A lot of these games now, you pick it up the first time and you're off to the races, and you have all the updates that came before it. And if there are more expansions that come on down the line, that would be the next thing that you purchase, instead of paying for the full price of a whole other title that includes none of the stuff from the first one. Usually, I should say. You pay probably some sort of like lesser price. Expansions usually don't advertise themselves as the same price as the original game. Usually, I should say. A game like Fortnite is a great example of this. That game is, one, it's free. You don't even have to buy the initial game. The updates are also free on top of that. And that game just evolves into a completely, almost unrecognizable version of itself every year through a series of updates in the year previous. It's also, I would attribute it to why we haven't seen Grand Theft Auto 6 much earlier. If I'm being honest, I mean, Grand Theft Auto Online, which is something that launched with Grand Theft Auto 5 back in 2013, might I add, has been raking in so much money for Rockstar. But they've also been pumping more and more content into Grand Theft Auto Online over this time. you look at something like the release schedule of every Grand Theft Auto that's ever come out, it's almost like an exponential like graph where it's a little bit of time, then a little bit more time, then a little bit more time, then a little bit more time, and then it's like this exponential time. People have been waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6 for 13 years now. Actually, it's a bit of a sore spot for some people because that game was actually supposed to come out this month. It was actually supposed to come out on my birthday. It was supposed to come out on my birthday. And Rockstar decided they hated me specifically and pushed it all the way to, I want to say, November. I started to get on this train of thought because me and some friends are getting excited for the new Forza game that's coming out. The trailer had just come out today, so I figured I would actually shoehorn that into the conversation about what I wanted to chit-chat about and explore today. The game looks beautiful. It's going to take place in Japan, and a lot of those set pieces in the launch trailer look so good. I'm ready to lose myself in a different game for a little while there. Can't wait for it. But these racing games, they could have been a live service game. I mean, they are to an extent. I mean, they receive expansions and updates, but I mean, as far as like a car game goes, I could see it being something where this could be the last one they ever release, and now you're just looking at getting a biannual update to the game that adds a whole bunch of stuff and more races and more tracks and more parts of the map and more things for you to progress in, and it really keep the player hooked on it, right? And honestly, even now that I'm thinking about it too, there are a couple of games out there that honestly probably could have just released other titles as large pieces of downloadable content and expansions to the game. I think back to Halo 3, very, very, very popular game. If you're in the gaming space, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And there was a game that came out not too long after that. It was Halo 3 ODST. And originally, this is me going off of memory. I didn't really research this part, but the story is that Halo 3 ODST originally was going to be DLC. It was planned as it was going to be downloadable content to expand the game and give you a whole other storyline and some more, just more content. It's the whole point of downloadable content. But it had become so large and became so much more than just downloadable content that they actually appropriately priced it just a little bit more discount than Halo 3. I think it was $40 on release instead of $60, which was MSRP for video games at the time. Now we're starting to look at $70, but hey, inflation. And I'm going to be honest with you, having sat down and played that game and gone through that story, and the storytelling at Bungie was amazing. I think the storytelling at Bungie is still amazing, but that was like prime narrative storytelling in a video game for across the board. Honestly, a lot of titles that came out around that time are very, very well regarded in a lot of our minds still to this day, not even just for nostalgia's sake. If you like sci-fi at all, just look at the bare bones skeleton of Halo as a story. And I mean, you got the books and you have all the expansion, but I'm getting way off topic. I think if that game never came out as its own title, I don't think it would be well regarded as one of the best Halos to ever come out. Mind you, this game was originally supposed to be DLC, which means that it runs on the same engine as Halo 3, a game we had already been playing for years. It uses a lot of the same assets from the same engine. So this game was extremely familiar, but the way they did the storytelling in that game, the way it got its own release, which means that it got even more marketing out of it. It had shelf life in stores. It was in people's faces. It was in their eyes. And on top of that, the second disc of that game was just the same multiplayer from Halo 3. So you just got to go relive the best multiplayer first-person shooter experience on console ever. I'm putting that down as ever. You just got to relive that, and that got to breathe new life and new players into that game that already had people playing it. It was literally a recipe for so much success. And on top of that, it was narratively such a good game. Maybe we do some Patreon content where we hyperanalyze some stories from Halo and some other games and movies and stuff like that. I already kind of wanted to do that with movies, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm so like narratively interested in video games these days. I think it'd be good for me to go back to these games where I really wasn't like mature as a storyteller and really get to sit down and hyperanalyze that stuff again. I think that'd be tons of fun. But so in the world of live service games, I think you lose that. If they decided to put out Fortnite, what's the title off the top of my head? Fortnite : the real story or some shit like that. I don't think you could do that, because in a game that doesn't have a physical copy, in a game that doesn't garner people lining up outside the store, call back to episode 1, you don't have these things. I think a handful of people would play it. I think if you priced it, I think if you made people buy it, even less people would play it, because you've already established this environment of content for free. And I just don't think, like, in today's current climate, as far as content releases and everything like that, I just do not think that you could pull off another similar story. We kind of had that with Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4. Insomniac Games released in conjunction with Marvel. They made a Spider-Man game. Very, very good game. Also one of my favorite stories in video gaming. Honestly, Marvel Spider-Man might be one of my favorite stories told in media ever. I mean, that story pulls on my heartstrings every single time I play it. And I've beaten it, I want to say, I almost said it. I'm going to adjust numbers so I don't accidentally hit the Zoomer market. About 6 or 8 times. About 6 or 8 times I've beaten that game. And it's brought me to tears at the end of it every single time. So good. But they had a story that they had teased at the end of it. Spoilers for a game that's older than the pandemic. They teased some stuff with Miles Morales and him getting bit. And at the very end of the game, you get to see him like use his powers. They designed an expansion for that, for Miles' story. And it was the same thing. And that game also got a few expansions for it too. It was some side missions. It wasn't a lot of achievements. It wasn't very big, but they were good stuff. It was good stuff to add in. But they were doing one for Miles, and they were doing one for this whole other character. And it just amassed so much content that it had to become its own release. Same deal. New game, shorter story, priced adequately. I played it. I fell in love with it. And I would have never played it if it was just another thing in the DLC bin, right? I think I'm kind of well past like my wants and desires to buy downloadable content and expansions for the sake of, you know, a handful more missions. If I had the spare money, sure, especially if it's something I love, which I guess I could see, but I also just got Game of the Year edition of Spider-Man when I bought it a second time. And you get all of the DLCs when you do a Game of the Year edition, in most cases. And it probably would have flew under my radar, and I would have played Marvel Spider-Man 2, the second one, working title. And I just would have been like, whoa, where's this other guy coming from? Holy crap, there's so much story that happened with Miles that I completely missed. I just dropped my pen. Speaking of Marvel Spider-Man 2, the other problem with games that you can essentially play forever until they stop making stuff for it, like a live service game, is that now I have this backlog. And I constantly talk about how I don't have time for extra projects or anything like that, which is funny because I was just bitching on Twitter the other day about how all of my friends are playing Dungeons and Dragons except for me, and it's unfair. But that game is a game that I got forever ago, and I still haven't beaten it. I have this backlog that honestly, if I kept track of my backlog, like if I got a whiteboard and just added to it in them in my office here over and over and over and over and maintained it, I would be depressed. I would be depressed at all the things I'm not looking at. I'm just going to read off just a handful of things because I tried to think of my backlog. If I don't write down my backlog, then it doesn't exist, right? If I don't put it down in reality, then it doesn't exist. If it's just in my head, then I can justify not going back into my backlog. But I'll read you a few things. I need to watch Daredevil Season 2, the new one on Disney+. I need to watch the new season of Scrubs, which it's almost blasphemous that I haven't watched it. I wanted to go see Project Hail Mary in theaters. I just don't have the time to do that. I'm probably going to have to wait for that one to come out on streaming. Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Need to finish that. And also Borderlands 4. I need to finish. And also, just those two games, awesome storytelling in those games. Very good, very fun storytelling in those games. I still need to beat them. I still need to sit down and beat them. But I'm so ingrained with just like everything that I'm already doing. It's not because I don't have time because I'm playing video games. I also work. I do 2 podcasts. I have a live stream that I do. You know, I fill my time throughout my week. And oh my God, I just had a revelation. Oh my God, I turned into my dad. Oh my God. Ah, shit. I really did it. I really did that. I was going to go on a whole tangent about how there's so much out there that you'll never truly catch up and do these analogies to how if you wanted to watch the entirety of YouTube, every minute you watch, you gain 8 hours of being behind because there's so much stuff being uploaded to YouTube. I was going to do all this whole second half of the episode. Let's talk about my father. Let's talk about old Mr. Adams' dad. I just realized that I've become him to a degree. Every time I talk to my dad, I'm like, what's going on? What's new? What's, what are you getting up to this weekend? Blah, blah. Oh, I've got so much going on. He tells me he's a guy who keeps his life completely filled to the brim with things that he's doing. I mean, he's always doing stuff for the record store that he co-owns or has like part ownership in, one of those two things. He's in a band and they're touring. They used to tour 11 months of the year. They used to play like 300 shows a year. Now they're kind of like in their slowdown, but he still does that. So he tours. Sporting events he's always attending, and he, I mentioned last week, I think, about how he'll never shovel snow again and all this stuff. He's moved on. He's moved on from bright and gloomy Cleveland, Ohio to sunny and shady Florida. So he's just always filling his time with Florida shit, going fishing, doing this, that, the other, X, Y, Z, and then some more. And I don't know. I think I'm having a like father, like son moment because he's busy and he keeps busy, but he also does all these things that are enjoyable to him. And that's what keeps him busy. If I wanted to, and there's a bolded and underlined, italicized, if I wanted to, I could stop streaming tomorrow and I would free up so much of my mental calendar. If I wanted to, I could just stop doing Booksmart Lifedom. I could stop doing Show. I could stop doing all the freelance work I do on the side. And I could just be a guy who works a job, comes home, and has no plans. And there's a part of me that says that that's kind of relaxing, but when I talk to my dad about how busy he is and how he's always got something going on, he'll often throw in the comment about, you can't waste a day. You have to make sure you're staying, busy, keep it busy. A day wasted is a day gone, right? And it's always something to that effect. It's never that exactly. It's not like I have that tattooed across my forehead or something, but starting to realize now is like I do the same thing, and I have a personal philosophy that kind of coincides with this a bit. I have a personal philosophy, falafel. I have a personal falafel. I have a personal philosophy that basically is that if it makes me laugh, then it's always worth it. If it makes me smile and it makes me happy and it's a joke that I know I'm going to laugh at, awesome. Then I'm going to tell that joke. And I think this kind of coincides with finding your own happiness and doing the things that make you happy as well. So, you know, if it's something you know that's going to make you happy, then it's definitely something worth investing your time into. I definitely think that a lot of us can agree with that sentiment. I am my papa. And we both play guitar. And we're both bald. And we both like Jordans. Oh, man. We all grow up to be our parents. I'm definitely a mishmash of both my mom and my dad, because I get excited over nerdy shit, just like my mom does. And also it's like, I think that's where a lot of like my wants and desires to figure out a problem, no matter how infinitesimally small it is, like just to work out, is like, aha, see, I did it. I looked at the gas prices and I saw how much fuel mileage my car gets. And if I wanted to drive across the country with dynamic gas prices where they are at today, when I would have to fuel up, how much it would cost me to fuel up when I get there, I would spend exactly this much money to the penny if I wanted to drive from New York to California, Cannonball Run style. And then everyone would look at me and be like, great. Why did you do that? And it was like, because I was curious. Because I wanted to know. And I am a seeker of answers of my mind, or something to that effect. I don't know, man. I don't know. But there you have it. I don't know. You don't know my parents. Unless you are my parents and you are listening to this. And I am so sorry that you listen to this podcast. Or I'm so happy you listen to this podcast. I don't know. I don't think I share 100% of my life with my folks and my family really much anymore. So this is a fun way for them to get a glimpse into what's going on and what's ever present in my head. I definitely know that a lot of the video game talk is going to go over their heads, but you know, Book Smart Life Dumb, baby. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Show's been fun. Updates on all that. Show's been great. Exploring different opportunities to make content with the boys from Show. I'm gonna pitch over a few ideas and see how psyched they sound to do it. What else is going on? Oh, it's my birthday this month. I think I said that last episode, but that was also buried beneath the happiness paradox, which wasn't the world's happiest episode. I'll say that much. So sorry about that. Try to keep it chipper. Try to have us a normal episode this go around. But yeah, the edits have been fun. I'm learning that if I get rid of every and between my thoughts and my phrases, I unfortunately make myself sound a lot smarter than I am. But also the Patreon edits have been fun too. The Patreon edits are fun and loose. Patreon.com/bookdumb if you're interested. I'm probably going to start up some of the other stuff, some of the more recaps and hyper analyses of stories and movies and games and what have you. Not a review channel, but more so just figuring it all out. But yeah, I think that'll do it for me this episode. A little bit shorter, but the episodes have been getting progressively longer and longer. So sorry about a little bit of a shorter one this week. I always try to shoot for 30 minutes now. 30 minutes is kind of my mark that I want, because I do only do this once a week. But I think I can hit 30. I think I can hit 30 on average. I think I'm definitely going to be in trouble if I somehow manage to get myself to the 45-minute mark every week with just me talking. Then I definitely just sound like an insane person after a certain point, right? And before I start sounding like an insane person, just wanted to thank you for sticking around and listening to the ramblings of a man who's got entirely too much going on upstairs, but not nearly enough going on with his hands. You can check out this podcast on Spotify as well as on YouTube and on patreon.com/bookdumb. Those are our 3 sites. You can listen to all episodes for free on Mondays on all 3 platforms. Or if you wanted to support this podcast, you can check it out every Friday, minutes after I'm done recording on patreon.com/bookdumb. Spotify listeners, congratulations. You guys got automated chapters and automated transcriptions so you can read along to what it thinks I'm saying. Hippolophodopotis. But go ahead and jump into the comments and tell me what Spotify thought that I just said. And as always, have a great week. I hope this last week treated you amazingly. If not, let's turn it around. And if so, let's keep that momentum going. Bye-bye.